Tuesday, 22 October 2013. This is a pretty important article, and this has got to be proof that this stuff is showing up in the mainstream media. It's not just Alex Jones territory. New York Times has an article about how a security check starts long before you fly. Written by Susan Stellan. If you can get a hold of the newspaper, it's $2.50. I'm over to a Starbucks right now, so it is, it's morning. It's still dark out here. I accidentally showed up to work too early today, and the place I had to work at is still closed. But if you get a hold of the New York Times, read this article. They're talking about a new TSA program, and there's some really telling stuff in the article. One, they call it an automated targeting system, and it basically, if you buy a plane ticket, it gives the government the right to do a lot of searching, not just on your background, not just, let's say, a criminal record search or a warrant search or something like that. But basically, once you buy a plane ticket, it becomes an interface between you and the government where they totally check you out. And it's not just, okay, let's see if this guy's on some kind of a terrorism watch list. That was the start of it. Now, apparently, in this article, they talk about an Arab guy named Abdullah Darat, a Libyan immigrant, from what I get, or U.S. born, but Libyan extraction. So he had gotten extra searches. And they talk about not only are all of these databases changed and upgraded and cross-referenced when you purchase a plane ticket. And this starts when you purchase a plane ticket. This doesn't start when you show up at the airport. It starts long before. That's why they say starts long before you fly. But under this system, they can even interface, and it's interesting because if you look at the last paragraph on page B8 on the New York Times, they talk about how this doesn't just go through other databases, but for example, when they talk about the FBI and unsolved crime databases, that means that it's used in ongoing investigations against you. And then the other thing that's happening is, where did I find it here? There was a reference that, violations and potential violations, and they even work with collection agencies. They'll work with credit reporting and collection agencies to target you. So let's say you've purchased a plane ticket, you owe money. Let's say you're late on student loans or house payments or something like that. They're going to interface that information with collection agencies and the FBI, and they might say, well, how come you're flying to Hawaii when you owe a bunch of money? Maybe we'll investigate you for fraud now. Maybe if you're taking a vacation and you're in debt, that can now open up a new investigation. If you're traveling, let's say, to and from SHOT Show, and you're a pro-gun person, you might have an issue. And the other thing is that this is largely, apparently, an automated system. So it's not like you're just going to talk your way into or out of something. This guy apparently had been active in the anti-Gaddafi stuff, which is supposedly supported by the U.S., and as soon as he was active in the anti-Gaddafi stuff, they searched him and they targeted him even more. So it's an automated system. So if you think they, right, and we quotes around they are after you, or they are doing something whenever you fly, or the behavior of people in and around the airport, or even in the days leading up to you taking a trip, if you suspect somebody's kind of spying on you or checking you out, well, it's probably true. And if you can get this video quickly enough, or you can find an article, New York Times, it's a couple of weeks old, at the local library, a lot of times they're going to have that, you're going to be really well informed about how the system works and what it is. And don't just take my word for it. Get the article, do a little bit of your own research, and understand that this is going to define a lot of what's happening in a new era of personal security. Now, I would also say that you need to consider this if you're in the personal protection business, you protect other people, that this may affect things between you and your client and how your firm interacts with these types of things. I will talk about in some follow-up videos, once I once they get the people to agree on camera, how you can avoid a lot of this stuff, especially if you're traveling in a group and you need to be in a security conscious situation. But for those who use public air transit, realize this situation, the whole Big Brother thing, it's not just a single agency. It's not just a single Big Brother interest. There's apparently going to be a very strong coordination and sharing of interests that converges whenever you buy an airplane ticket. And then as soon as you enter the secured area of the airport, they might do things like old warrant searches. Debt collection can happen at that stage, so you'd have to be careful about clearing cash or any financial instrument for that matter. And that's going to change. That's going to change how people interface with travel. I personally haven't flown for quite a while, so we'll see how a lot of this happens and how it interacts with the no-fly list. Because a lot of times when somebody was on a no-fly list, it's because somebody decided it was too much of a risk to let them on an airplane. On the other hand, once they know they're on a no-fly list, they're never going to interact with this system willingly. So it may be in the government's best interest to keep somebody on a allowed-to-fly list, and simply it gives them more information to synchronize all of the different intelligence data, which is what I think is happening with these kind of Arab people, that they decide to call a suspect at some stage. They may decide that it's actually more valuable to synchronize various intelligence data by allowing them into the airport, allowing them into the body scanners, get fresh pictures of the individual, and find out what credit cards they're using currently, what their current address is. There's a lot that they would gain in simply allowing a person to fly, especially domestically, in developing intelligence information against an individual or members of a particular group. But so if you can get a hold of the New York Times, again, it's the October 22, 2013 issue, front page article, and then it's continued on page B8. Get a hold of this and learn what's going on.